months so that you folks can kind of get an idea of, we call them everything you want to know about LASIK or afraid to ask, or just a lot of answers for about LASIK questions. Tonight we're joined by Dr. Endl, who's here with us. Sometimes we have the three docs, Drs. Fichte, Endl, and Elmer. Sometimes just one doctor, but tonight we're very fortunate to have Dr. Endl. He's spent a long day in surgery and he's here today to answer questions for you. I'm Kevin O'Brien. I'll be your host. I've been with these guys for 26 years. And just to start out for a couple of housekeeping items, there's a chat box off to the side. If you have a question, please type it in. Aaron, who's our refractive surgery coordinator, will try and answer as many questions as possible. If your question is not answered, or a lot of people ask the same question and you don't think you're getting it answered, keep trying. She'll get to you. You can always call here. For attending tonight, you do get a $50 off per eye stipend for joining us, so we do appreciate that. So kind of like common questions, and right now the chat box is open, and I know some of you have joined us and I don't see any questions so far, so I like to start it off by just talking about some of the common things that people ask us. And who knows better than this guy who does a ton of surgeries is, what's new? I mean, what's going on new in laser eye surgery? There used to be blade and now there's no blade. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, sometimes it helps to kind of go over some of the anatomy just to make sure we're all on the same page. Our eye has two lenses to it, that little clear dome on the front of the eye called the cornea, and then a lens on the inside that usually when you get to your 50s and above doesn't flex as much. It's when you start to need reading glasses. But most folks interested in laser surgery want to reshape the front of the eye so that they may be less dependent on the glasses and contact lenses.
Sure.
And they'll say, well, gee, if I do this at 18, what's going to happen to me when I'm 25 or 45? Well, the nice thing is the front part of the eye stops growing at about the age of 18. So we expect you to have a laser surgery at that age or older, and it keeps working just fine for your distance vision until you get some eye changes, aging changes on the inside of a cataract, which we will all get someday, but that's usually more in your 50s, 60s, and beyond. So whether you do it at 18 or 39, it's going to keep lasting until you have a health change on the inside. That laser on the front doesn't make happen sooner or later. That's just going to happen genetically whenever it's in the cards for you. Now, one of the things you mentioned is, well, what's new with laser surgery? Well, we used to say we can just reshape the front of the eye from the very surface, which was effectively a little doctor-prescribed corneal abrasion. Worked very well, but for the first couple of days was a little bit uncomfortable, and some of the older lasers used a smaller beam and could lead to a little bit of glare and halos. Well, that was most of the late 80s through the 90s. In the last 10 to 15 years, we now have lasers that can create a flap on the front of the eye, no blades at all, and the laser does the procedure virtually before we ever step on the pedal and let the computer go ahead. So it'll show.
So the first question always is, does that hurt?
Sure. Well, it hurts about as much as doing this. So it's like a little firm pressure. We always say you're not used to having a firm handshake to the eye, but it's a little firm pressure for a little less than 40 seconds, and then it's finished. And then the same thing on the other eye, because of course you'd like to be evened up. That just creates access to the front. Then there's a specific laser that won't even start until it sees your own optical fingerprint. Another wonderful advance that we have two custom treating tracking lasers that move faster than the fastest eye movement. So picture from an upright position to lying down. You're a little bit nervous because it's a day of surgery like most folks, and your eye moves a little bit when we tell you to look at the little blinking red fuzzball. Well, if your eye moves a little, not to worry, because the tracker won't start like locked on to a heat-seeking missile, which is actually where this technology came from, the military. The laser won't start until it says, oh, that's Mrs. Jones's left eye or right eye. It can't mix up the two eyes. It makes sure it sees you, and then during the case, it moves 20 times faster than the fastest recorded eye movement. We're fortunate enough to have the only laser in the country that's FDA approved to treat astigmatism more accurately than any other laser in the world.
How do you know your eyes are numb? That's another question. It's like, it's right now somebody.
We aren't shy with the numbing drops, and we sort of shower those in. And we've had the fortune to go do medical missions down in certain countries that don't have access to anesthesia. We can do a whole surgery inside your eye, which we won't do here, just with the numbing drops without anesthesia. So we know they're actually quite powerful. But we put them in, and then we have different little sponges that we're sort of tapping around the eye to check, in fact, that you're feeling pretty good before we move ahead with any other parts. But the only part that could be a little more startling or discomforting is during the flap for, again, less than 40 seconds that feels about like this.
How long does it take? Another question is from you time you come in to the time you leave, you're in this room, and this is the room. You're actually behind us. There's the 2 lasers that we use. How long would you say an estimated time from coming in that door, laying down, having both the laser to fix the flap or make the flap, the laser to fix your prescription? How long is that? How long does it take?
Approximately 20 minutes in and out of the room for most people. Yeah, we can do give or take 5 minutes based on us giving you a little chance. It's your day. So if you need a couple chances to take a deep breath, usually we have some nice verbal anesthesia where Kevin's talking you through things and not necessarily giving you more details than you want. Some folks will reasonably say, you don't have to give me every little detail, but at least, nice to know so nothing surprising. The fortune is, me having done a little over 20,000 of these, Kevin being involved in double that with all of my partners in surgeries with his experience. If you can picture something that might be a little bit unusual, we've seen it and we're going to get you through it.
So the big thing about that is we just had a patient the other day that was terrified. I mean, he came in here, and it's usually guys more than girls, not to be sexist, but he walked in the door, we knew he was scared. So basically, what do we do about that? What's your best answer to someone who's terrified?
Well, we have a little bit of discussion. We try to sometimes a little soft touch around the eye before we're doing any surgery starts to break down the barriers of getting you nervous that, a lot of this is anticipation. It's about 90% anticipation. Very unusual for us to finish surgery and a patient to say, oh my goodness, I got so worried for that. It wasn't, worse than they thought. It's always better. We're able to discuss it. We're able to take the time and go through. Now, the other thing we're able to do, and probably only about 10% of our patients opt for, is to give you a modern day Valium or a sedative. So we can do that, and we're happy to do so. Not everyone needs it, but it's certainly available if you'd like.
Okay, just to kind of give you an overview of the day of experience. Basically, you come in, same street clothes you normally wear. We do suggest that you dress warmly. As Dr. Endl will tell you, it's cold in here. He's cold right now. It's always about 66 to 68 degrees. We keep it chilled to keep the same temperature year round, whether it's July or whether it's January. It's always the same temperature and humidity in here. Dress warm. You need a driver, which a big question is, do I have to have somebody drive? Yes. And talk about the day of and the day after, because what do you expect? Like, how fast can you recover and how fast can you see?
Sure. So when you come in for that 2-hour appointment, that evaluation to see if you're a safe candidate, our job is to do no harm first. And there's so many things you can see in the eye that we eye doctors are privileged to see. My partners and I are full MDs, going through full medical school and residency, seeing classic conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes, high eye pressure called glaucoma. We need to make sure that none of those things are going on. You can have diabetes and still be an excellent LASIK candidate. We just need to make sure it's stable and not changing your prescription, which we can help you do by looking at your glasses and looking inside the eye. After that 2-hour examination, where we're examining, so that most thorough, almost interesting eye examination you'll ever have in your life, because we want to know the shape from front to back, how light is bent, so that we can get that custom fingerprint. There are many lasers out there that are very fast and very good for daytime driving, but sometimes it gets dark, right? So we'd like you to have the best chance at the happiest vision. So the safest way to the best vision is what you want to do for your eyes. And we still have the only custom lasers, not custom light, but actual wavefront guided lasers in Western New York to treat farsightedness and nearsightedness. So you come in for that evaluation and you're going to see 2 doctors. You're going to see one of our optometrists, and then the MD is going to review it, the surgeon as well. We come up with a plan together as to what's the safest way to the best vision for you. Like a good carpenter, we look to measure 3 times so that we can cut once. So when you come in for the surgery day, that's actually pretty streamlined. If you have a surgery, which we do on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, most people that do a Thursday, Friday surgery are able to go back to work either the next day or certainly by the next Monday, which is why those days are pretty popular. You expect to be in and out of the entire building on your day of surgery in less than an hour, because we have you come a half an hour before, we talk over some things before and after, but it's really quite streamlined and on time because I'm not sitting here yapping like I do in one of the seminars doing the surgery. And you go home that night with very underwater vision, functional, and you can already tell something happened for the positive, but a little bit like opening your eyes in a swimming pool. And the majority of people feel as though they slept in a contact, like it feels a little scratchy, burny, but not too bad. The next morning, about 2/3 of that underwater vision is completely gone. So you're already about 2/3 on your way to healing, and most people the next day can already pass a driver's test for at least daytime vision and probably nighttime, but not perfect yet. You have to have a little patience. It might be anywhere from a couple more days to a couple weeks before you really start to forget you used to be nearsighted. But the nice part is quite functional, even though not perfect, by the next morning for the vast majority of people. We're usually going to see you at the 1 day, the 1 week, and the 1 month. Another nice thing about our practice is you can have the 2 latest lasers on the planet. We do the FDA trials with these companies. There's no one in London, LA, or anywhere in between that can offer you latest technology in what we have. But we're not going to be any more expensive than they are, because for these latest technology lasers, we're as inexpensive as any of them. And we're not going to charge you any nickel and dime for other things. So what the cost is going in, the most it would be $20.99 per eye, and many people have several $100s per eye that insurances will cover. Our gals would help you with that. But the nice part is that covers you for the whole year with us. Okay, so if we have to see you 3 times as regular or 30 times, you're not paying any extra, because we're here to get you to 20 happy. There's no extra cost for your extra visits or anything that it takes to get there.
That's an important point, because if you look at research, some places, we encourage research. We want you to go to seminars and other places. We want you to go on the web. We want you to ask questions. Ask your friends, because some places, they have this ridiculously low price. And then you go in there, and they're like, well, that's only for, left-handed carpenters or 3 foot tall.
Very small prescription.
Very small prescription. No astigmatism, very small amount of near or farsightedness, and there's very few people that actually qualify for that. So they know that, and nothing wrong with that way of doing. But the bad thing is you go in there hoping you're going to pay very little amount of money, and you end up not. You end up paying more. The other thing is the evaluation. It's $150. We do charge that the day you come in. We expect you to pay that. And the reason for that is, if you're a candidate and we don't get you all the way through the candidate process, if we feel you're not a candidate, if you're a candidate, that is taken off the price of your procedure. So we subtract $150 off what your total is going to be. So it's not like you're paying it twice. And when people say, well, free evaluations or whatever, you got to kind of wonder, because you're seeing doctors, and you want something that's valuable. So that's why there's a charge for it. So that experience too is you're here for about 2.5 hours. And we warn people, have a driver, your eyes are going to be dilated, you're going to have the best exam you've ever had, and understand the reason why you're here 2.5, almost 3 hours is we collect a lot of information, and we have to say no about 10% of the time. We have to say to people, don't have this done. Don't let anybody do this for you. And it's sad that we have to walk into a room and deliver the bad news, and oh my goodness, you're going to have to wear contacts or glasses for the rest of your life. But better that than to have it done and have a problem. Talk a little bit about the differences in what we do. I mean, we do still the surface treatment that the Navy fighter pilots had. We do the flaps. We do a little bit of everything. But talk about the different kinds of procedures that we do, please.
Well, along the lines of LASIK, when you get to someone who's as ripe old age of Kevin and myself, so we'll say over 40, when you get to around age 45, whether you were born with perfect distance vision or we create it with laser, the lens on the inside of your eye, this guy again, that is born nice and flexible and sort of like an M&M candy, will start to get a little stiff. So if you've had laser surgery or are lucky enough to be born with excellent distance vision, right around that age, your distance will stay good. But you'll start to say, oh, my arm's not long enough, right? Or you see people tracing that, making the font on that phone a little bigger. Like maybe Kevin's.
My font's a little bigger. It's dark in yours.
So, that becomes I don't know if I want to trade one pair of glasses for another. So there's ranges for us to have a little bit of both, where we look to simulate that either with a contact lens or in the What's Better 1 or 2 test to try to keep some of your mid vision while giving you distance vision. If you're under age 38, 39, probably isn't applicable or necessary. But the nice thing is you don't do this laser and then 4 or 5 years later say, oh, I should have waited for the iPhone 7, or I wish it doesn't keep you as a good candidate for any other software or treatments that are coming up. So say we give you excellent distance vision and you had your surgery 16 years ago and it's been great. Anything you can do, Doc, to help me with my near vision, because I don't like these readers off and on? Well, there sure is. We can do a little test drive first with a little contact lens, or we can make one eye just a little bit nearsighted, but blends with your balance. So unless you do this, you're not sure which one's doing it.
And don't do it.
Do you like that eye? Yeah, the eyebrows. Most folks, like Dr. Fichte and my sister and a few thousand other people we've treated, are able to keep a range of vision without the readers off. So there's a lot of things we can do to expand that. And And then other treatments we do, we look at the health of the eye. Some people are born with a progressive thinning on the front of their eye called keratoconus. Now that's maybe 1 in 2,000 people, but we will see them at a much higher rate because they've already been frustrated that glasses and contacts can't help them. Well, laser might not help because it wears off, but we have little stabilizing procedures that go through insurance that can keep them from needing a corneal transplant and save their vision. And many doctors do not have the sophisticated maps that we have to detect this, so they've been bouncing around being frustrated with their contacts to that point. So again, we're going to make sure that we tailor treatments and recommendations to what's not only happiest for your activities, but best for your eye health.
Just as housekeeping too, there's my webmaster tells me that webmaster, that sounds like some ninja thing, that there should be an orange button on your screen. If you click on it, you can also have what's called a free screening. And a lot of people, it's kind of like dipping your toe in before you go swimming. You want to kind of know a little bit about it. We welcome people to come into the office. You can come in, you meet with our refractive surgery coordinator. They go over what's available. They do a quick test of your vision on what's called an auto refractor. It gives us a ballpark of what your prescription is, the strength of your prescription, and it gives us an idea if you are in the realm of being a candidate. That's no charge. That's because you're not here for 2.5 hours and you don't have dilation drops. You're not seeing a couple of docs, and that's a perfectly good avenue to get into the office to see the place, because you come in here and you see people walking in, walking out. They've had surgery. You could come and watch an open house. We do once a month. We're doing one tomorrow night. You can actually see a patient come through the process. They walk in, they have it done. You hear us go through the whole process. I narrate it. The doctors do the procedure. We bring the patient out after we're done, and you can ask them questions and say, can you see? How does it feel? What's going on? And you get a real-time, real answer from the real patient. So it's invaluable. So free screening if you click on the button. info@fichte.com for questions. We have someone that reads those every day and answers. 1-800-309-2020. We're also here physically at 2825 Niagara Falls Boulevard in Amherst, Suite 130. We can be reached at, we have an 800 number just because it's easier. It's 800-309, easy to remember, 2020. So 1-800-309-2020. And if you want to directly get to the gal or the person, the real person that talks to you, her name is Erin. And Erin's our refractive surgery coordinator, and she knows what she's talking about. She's talked to a million people. So I see I have one more question on my phone, and it says the differences in the procedures of surface PRK versus a flap. And again, we all started out with surface PRK because that was the only way you did it. So a little bit of history, if you don't mind.
Sure. So we talked a little bit about creating that flap on the front of the eye, and there is a flap that could be rated with a blade. We still offer that because it does happen to be a few $100s cheaper per eye. And if you have all otherwise normal parameters to your eye where it's not too steep on the front, not too flat, and you say, well gee, I kind of like the thought of the technology, but let's face it, sometimes money's a real thing, and if it's something that's a little more affordable, I wouldn't consider allowing you to have the bladed procedure if I didn't think it was safe. It's not recommended for all patients, and that's part of your evaluation for us to tell you. If my family member comes in nowadays, I will try to recommend the all laser LASIK if they qualify, just because it's a little less likely to have dry eye.
Yeah, what are the advantages?
A bladed procedure might have a 1 in 900 chance of having a slightly irregular flap. Thankfully, not a vision-threatening tragedy by any sense, but if it looks irregular, I have to stop, let it heal for 3 months, and sort of tease you for that day because it might not be able to go forward until it heals and it's really ready for the laser procedure. With the all laser procedure, that doesn't happen because I see where the flap is being made before I have to go step on the pedal, and I can say, oh, a little left, little right. So it gives the doctor that added convenience of doing a mock version of the surgery before I actually let the laser do the work.
So if their eye moves, it follows. And if you're terrified and you're saying, well, what if I can't stare at that light? The biggest question is, what happens if I can't see the light and I move my eye? So you're afraid you're going to get less of a treatment, but no.
And it won't go ahead unless it knows it's locked onto you. If you sneeze and try to run out of the room, it says, okay, I've treated 20% or 23%. I'll treat the rest when she comes back in. We have backup generators. So if the power to go out, say we're in a snowstorm in a place called Buffalo in January, the laser can actually finish several more treatments. We'd probably just do that one treatment and not keep pushing it. But we have all of these backups. If you can think of it, thankfully, we've been through it, and we'll get you there. But the one other treatment that sometimes people need, some people on the front of their eye have a lot less thickness, which is just natural for them. The health is fine, but they don't have enough room if combined with a very large treatment to do both the flap and the reshaping of their eye and still leave half of that front wall behind. So if not, we go and do an advanced surface treatment. Much more comfortable than PRK in the past, but certainly a little bit more stinging for the first 24 to 36 hours. So it may feel anywhere, about 9 out of 10 people say, it feels like I slept in my contacts with a little more sting, to 1 out of 10 will say, wow, that really burns for a day or two. And again, usually the 22-year-old males, because I can't put myself in the younger guy category, but the younger guys usually a little bigger babies than the females. But we have happy pill to put you to sleep.
It's true.
Numbing drops to help you get through it. And within the 2 days, it'd be very unusual to have much discomfort. The other thing about the surface treatment with no flap at all, every bit is accurate once you get to 5 to 6 weeks out and beyond. In fact, holds up over the 18-year FDA trial that was comparing the two procedures, LASIK and surface, that the surface was actually 1% better, which was not statistically significant. So it's certainly not any less of a procedure. They're dead equal in how well people do. But during the first month, we're Americans. We'd like things to be comfortable and better yesterday, right? So during the first month, LASIK procedure with the flap, if you recover, is why we do about 80% that procedure. Because again, you can usually pass the driver's test on the first day versus surface, you might count on being about 4 or 5 days before you're driving yourself anywhere.
Now, what we do to manage discomfort when you do surface treatment, because you're basically creating an abrasion on the front of the eye, then you're treating the cornea, and you're waiting for that abrasion to kind of heal over. It's like punching a hole in a frozen pond. It has to freeze back over. So we've learned through our experiences what to do over the years to make people more comfortable. We tell you, take some ibuprofen the day before, twice a day, 600 milligrams. Make sure you have it in your system before you do it. The day of, you take it. The day after, even if you feel fantastic, you take it again. It helps to keep down inflammation and discomfort. We also, during the procedure, use extremely cold water for about 10 seconds. You're going to say, what the heck are they doing freezing me here? But it kind of
ice cream freeze
shocks the nerve endings. And it says, you know, to the eye, calm down, it's not a problem. We use bandage contact lenses. For some guys that have never worn contacts because they're afraid to touch their eye, we put it in for you. We take it out. It stays in there for about a week, and it's like a shield. So every time you blink, you're blinking over a contact. Now, all these things over the years that we've done this, between the cold water, between the ibuprofen, between the bandage lens, and we give you cold packs to put on your eye for the first couple of days, we've learned that makes people more comfortable. I call people at night as well as the doctors do. We check on you to make sure you're all right. And invariably, we prepare you for this, you know, blizzard snowstorm, and there's an inch of snow out there, and that's a good thing. But if you're in the blizzard and you're scared because they didn't tell you it could be a blizzard, it's kind of scary. So we prepare you ahead of time to know if you have a surface treatment, how it could feel. But if I say to people, 10 is horrible, 1 is not bad, how are you? Most people tell me it's 1 or 2. Very rarely does anybody say 10 anymore. Where in the beginning, it was a lot of 10s. So again, contact us through info@fichte.com, 800-309-2020. We're almost out of time. We got a few more minutes, but you know, we get a million questions a lot that are all the same, and we hope that we've answered some for you. Erin is answering questions also. We're not seeing them on our computer screen. I'm sure she is, but they're also texting me from, you know, the place where they're doing this. We have a producer that does this for us. We're all working together to answer questions for you. But talk about the, you know, the open house experience. I mean, we talked a little bit about they get to see a surgeon on that.
You touched on it before.
Tell,
what's nice is,
elaborate
you know, that patient that comes in and is volunteered to let the closed circuit TV of our waiting room of audience take a look at their surgery. They're in the same position as you are. The average person, in sort of market research we've learned over the years, thinks anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years about doing this before they actually do it. And they come in and they're a little bit nervous. And what's wonderful is they'll say, there's no prompting. Say that the people are going to ask you questions. We bring them out so you can say, did it hurt? What'd you think? What'd you see? What did it look like when you were underneath there? Well, because those are real questions you have. Most people would have had this yesterday if they weren't a little bit worried. Well, does it hurt and how much does it cost? Okay. Yeah. So the nice thing is we have to remember the safety. Why would you do something to your eyes if you were taking an unreasonable risk? Well, the most unreasonable risk that everyone takes daily compared to LASIK, which of course, thank goodness, is very safe, is put a little piece of plastic that could act like a bacterial petri dish in their eye. Right? So a contact lens is 4 to 5 times more likely to give you a vision-threatening loss, scar, or infection than laser ever will be. So when you look at things relatively speaking, glasses might be the very safest. But they steam up, they're not so easy to swim in. If you love your glasses, excellent. We don't want to talk someone out of something that they love, but we want to provide the convenience for someone that's a little bit more active and just doesn't like when I lose them, sit on them, sleep on them, bend them, what have you. So laser surgery is 4 times more safe than a contact lens. It stays stable after about the age of 18 and doesn't preclude you from further refractive surgeries, treatments, cataract surgeries down the road that we will all need in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's come a long way, thank goodness.
So the funny thing about the open houses is, first of all, we enjoy doing it, and we've been doing these for almost 15 years. And every month, we thank goodness, whatever, that people come in, they still want to see what's going on. Because, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, we have doctors all the time come in. We have practices that come in from all over the country because they can't believe that we get, you know, 100 souls in here that want to watch this. And that's a lot of people. And it's great. You know, we provide food for them. We make sure that it's a nice environment. But the patient who's the patient, invariably somebody say, well, do I get a discount for that? Well, yeah, there's a little consideration. It's not like $1 million off, but yeah, there's some for doing it. But most people want to do it because they want to help educate. And the other thing is, they're like, I had someone say to me the other day, you know, I'm going to do that open house because I know if there's all those people watching, they're not going to make a mistake because they don't want to look stupid. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter one person or 1,000, because, you know, he's done his family members, his sister, you know, Dr. Fichte's done 2 of his sons' eye surgery. I mean,
Dr.
Elmer's done, you know, yeah, he's one of the youngest patients we ever did. So there's no real difference between the open house experience for the patient than other than there's a bunch of people watching. And we have a guy with a camera. I mean, he's an ABC news camera guy, and he's been doing this for years too, and he doesn't zoom in on your face, he just shows your eye. And, you know, it's a cool experience. You sit up front with a group of people who have similar questions. You watch a big screen TV. It lasts for about maybe an hour. But the nice thing is, when you're done, you get to ask these guys. I mean, they're here and they'll stay as long as you want. When you're done, they'll sit there and they'll spend one-on-one with you. You get to make the appointment right then and there if you want, so you can come back, reserve your time, and it works out really well. So when we're done, the last thing is just so not, if you have questions that we didn't answer, because we're getting close to the end, we've only got about another minute or two. If we didn't answer your question, please don't hesitate. Just info@fichte.com or call the 800-309-2020 number, or get a hold of Aaron specifically by calling here. But don't think that your question hasn't been asked before, or don't think, you know, that a million people don't have the same question, because I know I do. I mean, when I do a lot of things, I want to know, how is it, how, you know, does it hurt, all those things. We get these all the time, is how much does it hurt, how long does it last, what do you actually do to my eye? But beyond that, if you want to know anything, go ahead and ask. So
we're looking to improve your visual system for as long as possible till you need any other health changes down the road. We're so used to, the other half of my life and job is doing cataract surgery, usually for folks 50 and above. And many times that's when it comes into having one more for distance, one for up close, exchanging different implants on the inside of the eye, which is a whole different seminar. But the point being, everybody has their own visual needs and hobbies that they enjoy most. Boys, I'm really right here, and I'm really on the computer all day. I'm a corrections officer, and I can get punched in the eye. I need to know what the safest procedure for this. We take all of that into account because we come in with a webinar giving you some general information. You come in for that couple-hour exam, and that's when we can start to say, we have 4 different lasers. You go to a place with one laser. Guess which laser is going to do your eye? Yeah. We don't want to cut, you know, sort of cram everything into one box. We want to do what's most appropriate. Okay, I tell myself that when I pay the maintenance fees on these extra lasers, that it's actually worth it. But it is, because it lets me know that I'm choosing the least chance of enhancement and the best technology for that patient, not just the laser I have in the room. And it's always going to be customized, and it's always going to get you to 20 happy, whether we even need to do an enhancement. An enhancement is a touch-up. 4% of patients or less. Good. That puts us as low as anywhere in the country. If anybody ever tells you they guarantee you'll be perfect in one laser, nothing to do with the health of your eye. Run the other way, because you can't 100% predict how every human body part is going to heal, but we can tell you the health will be good and we'll get you to 20 happy, even if you need the inconvenience of a no-charge tweak 3 or 4 months later.
So we're going to end here in just a second, because we promised 30 minutes. We keep to 30 minutes because you're busy, you're home, you're doing stuff. You don't want to listen to us yap forever. But just as a final thing, I want to let you know that when Dr. Endl talks about technology, you know, the one behind me, the laser that we have behind me, it's from a company called Bosch & Lomb that used to be headquartered right in Rochester. Now it's headquartered in Canada. The gentleman who maintains, installed, and does all the work for us on that laser, the technical engineer, allowed us to do his eyes here. Could have gone anywhere in the world, Could have gone to Germany, could have gone to a plethora of doctors across the country. He came here and he let us do his eyes here, which is a real testament to our capabilities. He trusted us, and he knows this machine. It's like the NASCAR driver that drives a car that tunes it up himself. So 4 lasers, 3 surgeons, lots of choices. You go in, like Dr. Endl says, if you go in, they have 1 laser or even 2, one that makes it flap and one that does the prescription. Those are the ones you're going to get. We have 2 that make it flap. We have 2 that change prescription. They're customized and they're truly to your prescription. So I want to thank you for coming for tonight. Again, additional questions answered by, info@fichte.com or calling. And that's it. Any final words?
Yeah, thank you everybody for your time, and we look forward to helping you see better.
Thanks. Good night.